Good afternoon from the car park opposite the CNC Hall, the neighbourhood centre here in Creswick. There's nothing like a well-organised person, and I am nothing like a well-organised person. Earlier I put a video up here talking about some plans that I had for the day, having had a very long sleep, then another little sleep, and brain cells currently reassembling themselves and marshalling, probably to have some more damage done tonight if I know myself at all. So if you watched that earlier video, which I took at about 1 o'clock, saying, I've got plenty of time to get into the CNC Centre to see Fred Smith do Sparrows at Kabul. No, he was pretty much kicking off as I was. It was 1 to 2:30 p.m. Why I know I had to. Well, I was thinking 2:15 for some reason, but then again, adjusted time, daylight saving time. I'm currently in South Australia, no, Victoria, and my head is kind of sort of over in Fremantle in some ways. In fact, I was stood outside the CNC hall once I'd realised my stupidity, and within the space of 30 seconds, two people had come up to me and said, "Oh my God, a Dockers fan, oh, Fremantle." And I got talking to one bloke, and he's told me that kickoff is 5:20 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Now, he looked that up on his phone, and I'm going to say that's probably correct, probably. However, I'm taking nothing to chance. I'm going to be checking it about 3 ways. But for all of that, sometimes at festivals, and especially brilliant, amazing festivals like Cresfest is, and I'm going to put it up there in that class. As I've said often enough in the last 16 to 17 years of writing for a magazine, the National Trad Now magazine, I don't even try to be objective. I'll be subjective, but I'll disclaim it. So if I won't be writing up a thing for Trad Now because I've finished up with them now. But I'll probably, at some time in the next few days, weeks, months, or possibly years, I think my record for the delay between experiencing something and writing, or publishing the story is 7 years. And that was about a caravan park at a place called Green Acres in Benarabi, or near Benarabi, between Gin and Gladstone in central coastal Queensland. I went there in 2017. I've written the story, I'm getting sidetracked here, I've written the story about my one night which turned into 5 nights at Green Acres, but there's a deeper story, and it includes, not making this up, the Tannum Sands Police Station, the Queensland Police Service, and a certain bloke at the Queensland Minister for Police's office. It's a good story. And it's why if I'm in if I'm in a singing session, I'll more often than not request that somebody does Sergeant Small. And I go a bit nuts whenever anybody does a version of, I'll go back to central Queensland and beat up Sergeant Small. There's no one particular, I'm talking metaphorically here, people, metaphorically. There's no one particular police officer of the Queensland Police Service that I want to beat up. However, thank you to the Police Minister's office, they beat up certain police metaphorically for me. True story. It's coming on overheardproductions.com sometime in the next 7 years. However, the story of my time at Green Acres is up. If you scroll not too far down on overheardproductions.com. I've got to start filling it up with more content for many reasons. One of them is that I've had about 5 or 6 documents which I've had in draft for up to 7 years, including the Green Acres one. And just one night I thought, look, if I wait around until I get time or the inclination to stick photos and do the edits and everything, I could be in my 70s. So one night I went to all 5 or 6 documents and went publish. So if you scroll down past my smiling cheesy face from 2007, with John Schumann from the Vagabond Crew, ex-Red Gum, with his arm wrapped around me, around my neck, at the back of the concert stage in Woodford Folk Festival. And it's really funny because some people look at that and that's the first thing they do if I'm talking in a bar or a pub or a coffee shop or a restaurant or in the street about Overheard Productions. they dial up over herproductions.com, and the first thing they see is this rather svelte, follicularly follicularly flowing young bloke. Doesn't look too bad on the eye. And then they look at me and say, what happened? To which I say two words, the second of which is off. Speaking of off, I should rack off, Normie, and get over to the American Lounge and see if I can catch the end of, or second half maybe, of the singing session with Jane and Andy. Those two. Oh, God. See, this is it. So the point of the story was, the older I get, the more I try to rely on what Morris Gleitzman, the author, mostly of children's books, but he has written one of my favourite books of all time called Self-Helpless. And it's 57 chapters for people who just need a little bit more time to get it right. That's the title of the book. And he talks about the difference between your grey brain and your black brain. And he wrote this back in the time when we didn't have these devices or smartphones or tablets and such. We had personal organisers. And he left his sitting on the top of the phone, a public phone, in America when he was over there for a book tour. He was on his own and he wandered away, went back, I think, and it wasn't there. And suddenly, he'd lost his black brain. And he couldn't rely on his grey brain because his grey brain didn't take the information in about phone numbers and addresses and tour dates of where he's doing his speaking tour. The older I get, the more I try and rely on my grey squishy brain, not my black plastic brain, which is fine to a point and it serves me extremely well. Freaks some people out when I remember things, people that I haven't seen for a couple of years, and I say, oh, Guinevere, Nigel, how you going? Haven't seen you since the Kickatinalong Folk Festival and Cat Fanciers show. Oh my God, I mean, you look kind of familiar. You're a bit fatter and uglier and more chins now than when we last saw you. No. So I try and rely on the grey squishy brain. But today I tried to rely on it, and if you go back to that earlier video, take it all with a pinch of salt and absolutely do not trust the times. Not that it's going to help you unless you've got a blue TARDIS handy to go back in time. I wish I could, but I don't do fear of missing out. I'll see Fred Smith in Gosnells in, I said May, but I think it's actually June. Sometime between now and the end of June. And as for Chris Stout and Katrina Mackay, they're about, what time now? Yeah, they're 6 minutes away from wrapping up at the town hall. And the Haas sisters, who I now know are of German lineage, not Dutch, as I thought. Although, true story, I think she might have, when I say to people, oh, you're a dead spit for, and I explained to her that that's an Australian term, dead spit. Well, I could have said doppelganger if I had known at that stage the German lineage. What's the German word for doppelganger? I'm not sure. Anyway, absolute dead spit for the daughter of a musician / friend who I haven't seen for over 10 years. Craig Dawson has a daughter called Rochelle, and he sings about her on his Malfunction Room CD. Shell on a Carousel, I think, or Rochelle on a Carousel. And not kidding, that's why I thought maybe there was a Dutch heritage, but yeah, Dutch-German. Don't say that to a Dutch or a German person. Yeah, oh yeah, just over the border. It's a bit like saying, oh yeah, Kiwi, they're almost Australian. From the car park outside the CNC Hall, the neighbourhood centre in Creswick or Creswick, depending on your preference and which side of the tracks you came from. It's Bill Quinn saying, I'll see you when I'm looking at you, but bye for now. Oh, and I've got to find my blue marker because I think I can just about, yep, cross off Cresfest. See ya.